Hello my lovely gamers. It's me Alex, here to do some Minecraft Hardcore Challenge. In this episode, I will look and mine for diamonds. Girl's best friend. Aside from kitties, foxes and puppies. Moving on, first thing to do is make a shelter, and I've spawned in this jungle. I think I need to punch a tree to get some woodblock. I'm glad this is not real life since I just finished polishing my nails and I would be, like, furious if they get ruined. Also these logs could really be very moldy and slimy. Like, slippery and stuff. That would be very gross. You know? I'm glad I'm just sitting here and being really pretty and, laid back. This is awesome. Besides, if this is a real rainforest, it will always, rain. Oh dang. I accidentally placed down the log. There it goes. Now I need to decide if, I make a house first then do a crafting table or do the opposite. Like opposite day. Interesting. I have cocoa beans. If I grind this, would be nice if I can have Starbucks here. Dang. Why this became brown dye. I wish there's coffee in Minecraft. Dang, I miss the city. Oh well, better move on. Oh, I see a watermelon. Very good for my diet. I prefer mostly salad. Unfortunately, there is no salads in Minecraft. Just cake. I don't like cakes. It's just too sweet for me and bad for my teeth, which I floss it every day. I make it a habit to stay fit and healthy. I avoid stuff that, make you fat. Oh, that spot looks great to make my shelter for the night. It looks great. I should start digging out the side of this hill. The sun is still up. The entrance looks perfect here. There's lots of gravel here. If this is real, my nails would look very, very ugly by now. Dirt and gravel everywhere. I would also smell bad by now. The tropical weather will take a toll on my pretty body. I wish Minecraft had shampoo and, soap. Most flowers only make dye, but never perfume. This reminds me of Captain Sparkle's song, Revenge. He composed that song 8 years ago. Now it felt more nostalgic to listen to it again. 8 years ago I was so young and innocent. Still pretty. I had a hobby. I had a little dollhouse where I dressed them up for an afternoon tea party. My doll's name was Luna, Olive, and Max. That was my brother's toy soldier. I just loved to make up stories of love affair between Olive and Max. But Luna was the crazy one who wanted Max for herself. One day, Luna invited Alex and Olive to her tea party that afternoon. While they were all talking about Max's life on the front lines, Luna was discreetly touching Max's legs underneath the table with her toes. As Max was surprised about Luna's advances, Olive excused herself to go to the powder room for a touch-up. As Olive leaves the room, Luna, like a desperate wolf she is, grabbed Max's neck and started kissing him passionately. Suddenly, my brother came and grabbed his toy soldier away. Never to be seen again. It was so ironic. Almost the same thing happened to me and Steve 3 years ago. It wasn't another girl that separated me and Steve. It was his passion in traveling that broke up apart. Again it broke my heart again. I should seen this. I was a fool to fall for a guy like Steve. I tried to travel with him, but he treats me less than his pet dog Shermie. He goes out with his dog while I stay to prepare pork chop and mashed potatoes when they get back. One day, like most of the day he does, he went out for another adventure. Of course, I am left behind to feed the cows and the chickens. But not this time, I said to myself. This time, it's my turn to go out and explore the world. See everything in a new light. It felt wonderful. It felt like I am free. Free to be me. In charge of myself, and still pretty. Weeks has passed. I traveled to a quaint village around the Southern Isle. When a fat fluffy cat passed by me, it seemed that the cat had no owner. So I tried to reach into my bag and took out dried salmon. At first she was timid and ran away from me, but I followed her. Eventually, she smelled the salmon I was offering her and ate it. I finally adopted Fluffy. I was so happy that day. I asked an innkeeper to let me stay for the night and paid 2 emeralds for me and Fluffy. She is so adorable. Deep into the night, at 3 a.m., the village suddenly attacked by raiders. Ransacked and killed all villagers. Me and Fluffy sneaked out the back alley to avoid being seen, but an arrow almost hit me, and then 2 pillagers attacked me. I put out my sword and stopped the 2 pillagers. I ran towards the stables and closed the door. I found a horse, got the horse ready to leave. Suddenly, the door exploded. I was knocked back. The door was destroyed and out came 2 more creepers. Before I tried to stand up, the creepers exploded, killing the horse and Fluffy. I was in shock. I was in rage. It was already dawn. The raiders left the ruined village, once thriving, not abandoned and destroyed. Now gone, and everyone, including Fluffy, dead. I tended to my own wound and managed to get back and moved onward. This has left me scarred. Bamboo. I can harvest these and replant them. Also, I would need to dig the front side and replace the sand with soil for planting crops. Oh, I see a watermelon. Oh wow. I did not know I can skin off tree trunks with my axe. Seems awesome. Now I need to put all the bamboo shoots here. Let me finish this and let me get back to you all a little later. Okay, I have dug deep into the ground during the night. I have dug some coal and iron ores. I am placing some torches here for safety. I will try to continue exploring my surrounding area for today. This reminds me a story. Here's the story. So I joined a server and I joined someone's team, and before I got trusted I wanted to mine for him. I didn't know that the server's owner was on, so I started mining. I found 2 diamonds within 5 minutes, and there was for some reason a cooldown for mining diamonds to protect it from X-rayers. So then I see that's the owner's online and continue in mining, finds diamonds 5 minutes later and is banned for illegal mods when all I did was follow Wikiho. I have another story of a guy named Blake. He said, "A while back I was playing with a friend at my house on Xbox. We lived together in a cave for a while, then he decided to move to the edge of the world and built into the side of the hill with the amazing opening about 20 to 25 blocks above the water. Later, after he moved in, he built a deck. So while he was busy, I built a ramp and rode a minicart into the water. Found out the hard way that when you hit the water in a minicart you do take damage. So I lost my minicart and half my inventory. It was worth it." Another story about another guy named Superfire. It all started with the first real server I joined. Pretty much a lot of that time was funny or otherwise remarkable. After getting whitelisted, I started walking one way for a few thousand blocks, like I always do after joining a new server. You must know that the server had a rank system that should also prevent griefing, but in a way was quite annoying. After 48 hours of playtime, you gain the trusted rank and are allowed to use water and lava buckets, which you are not without the rank. So, a little later I had already started building the walls of a castle in the middle of a desert when I got banned for some reason. It turned out that the nether warts that were planted inside a nether fortress, it actually belonged to a player who used that spot as a farm. I got unbanned shortly after though. At one point, I was using water I had brought down from the surface through a hole to make obsidian and build myself a nether portal. Before that I used the one at spawn, when suddenly an admin said that I was banned. But when I asked him why, I saw the trusted tag in front of my name. He had played a prank on me and had ranked me up. Another thing that happened was me losing my whole inventory due to a bug with a plugin, where it didn't switch my items back after a PvP match with classes, which resulted in me wearing a red wool block on my head. Luckily somebody let me use his Enderman farm, which he normally uses for himself only. I managed to get back to the tech level I was on before, which would not have been possible otherwise, as max level enchanting required level 50 at that time still. Trust me, I could go on for much longer than this, and still remember the funny episodes from that server, including people talking about relationship problems, and a mod crashing the server several times with World Edit. This story happened on Endergirl's favorite server. So me and my friend went exploring to find a nether fortress. We wanted to get some experience points, gas tiers, blaze rods, and some magma cream while we were there. So when we got the 2 blaze rods, we began shooting at them. Eventually my friend accidentally shot me with his bow, and I did the same to him. Then we got into this stupid conversation if he will shoot the blazes. So after a while, we were then attacked by a ghast. My friend, who was standing right in front of the ghast, did not notice. So I quickly pulled out my bow and fired a shot, only to realize that my finger slipped and it was aimed at my friend. My bow had punch, so he fell off the nether fortress and lost all his stuff. He got really mad, so I repaid him with a new set of iron armor and weapons. I do recall that other people in the server seemed to find it amusing. I know I did. Another story is from Chessy Moon. He said, "I was playing on a faction server with my friend, and we had gone raiding. He decided to go a separate way to me, so I went on my way and found an underground base with heaps of loot, so he teleported to me and we shared the loot. He liked the base so much that he decided to claim the area and use it for himself. When he went back to his old base, it turned out he had raided himself. Oh, the irony. So he took what was left and went back to the underground base he just took. A few days later, we logged on to play together, and he went to his base and found that the original owners had retook it and looted all of his stuff. So he went raiding, got raided, stole a base, and got raided again. It was just very funny at the time. Another story from Tenzinkendrick. He said, I probably deserved it, but I realized that the creative portions and the survival portions of a server were on the same world, so I set my home in a survival area, then went back to the main nexus at the server entrance, took the creative world portal, and pulled out a compass. 2 hours of ceaseless flying later, and I entered the survival domain, where I started walking to not look suspicious. I then gave my faction stacks and stacks of diamonds and obsidian, then took a few hours out of my life to build a castle made from self-rebuilding walls, the generators behind 3 layers of obsidian, a self-rebuilding passcode gate where inputting in the code would just stop the generators for 10 seconds, and an incredibly extensive underground base for my entire faction. Then someone from my own faction, the traitor, reported me for hacking. I explained how I had done it, and it was a legitimate exploit in the map, but got banned anyway. Probably because I decided to box the enemy faction's bedrooms in Bedrock. I returned with someone else's account, and sure enough, no admin cleared away my castle or the Bedrock. And that Ep1 traitor was now leader of my faction, living in the palace I had built. Okay, here's another short story by an unknown author. It starts at, Don't ask me what I'm doing here, because I don't know. One day, I woke up in the middle of a forest, covered in snow, devoid of all memory and sense of identity. Why? I have no clue. It almost doesn't matter. I spent the first couple of hours calling for help, wandering around, hoping I'd find someone nearby. After a while, I came to the reluctant conclusion that I was well and truly isolated, no sound of human voices, no hum of tires on distant roadways. Nothing but the trill of far-off birds and rustling branches in the wind. There might have been a cow nearby from all the mooing, but I couldn't find it. I might not have known who I am, or why I woke up in the snowy forest, but that didn't mean I was going to sit down and let depression take me along with the wolves. I needed a plan of action, needed to find a way to survive. But first, a man needs to know himself before he can trust himself, and because my old name was lost to my departed memory, I have decided to call myself Steve. It's a good name. Spent some time searching the area, looking for anything that might be useful to me. Tools and weapons would be my first priority. Don't ask me how I knew, but I could tell the forest would be dangerous at night, something in my blood maybe. There wasn't much, not even a single fallen branch on the ground, just smooth snow and straight pine trees. I tried to grab hold of a few rocks peeking up from the soil, but they were firmly stuck. I'd need something to pry them free, or maybe break them away. I spotted a tree nearby and went to it, running my hands over the dark brown bark. It was a good tree, strong and healthy. So I punched it. Pulp and bark flew as my hard fists broke chunk after chunk away from the tree. I gritted my teeth against the jarring in my arms and kept going until the whole thing broke through and crashed to the ground. Chest heaving from the exertion, I gathered the wood and sat down, examining the pieces. Pulp and bark flew as my hard fists broke chunk after chunk away from the tree. I gritted my teeth against the jarring in my arms and kept going until the whole thing broke through and crashed to the ground. Chest heaving from the exertion, I gathered the wood and sat down, examining the pieces. I broke some of the longer chunks into thick sticks, then stabbed one of them into a flat piece of wood shaped like a blade. I grinned as I hefted the wooden axe I'd made, then swung it around experimentally. It felt good. I used the axe to fell several more trees until I had enough wood to make all the tools I needed, a shovel, sword, and pickaxe, the latter of which I used to break those stubborn stones from the ground. I stowed the rocks away for later use and strapped the tools to my back. I kept the sword out though, the feeling of danger in the woods tickling the back of my mind. Thus armed, I set off in search of food and shelter. I won't bore you with the details of my struggle against starvation and wolves. Suffice it to say, it was a struggle. I fought, bled, and conquered. I stumbled over hills and down into water-filled valleys, climbing trees to see the path ahead. I slew cows and ate their flesh to stay alive. I fell off cliffs and broke bones, spending days waiting for them to heal. I briefly marveled at how quickly the wounds mended, but wasted no time in pressing on once they did. At night times, I was attacked by monsters, proving my intuition about the forest to be correct. I hid from the darkness, lighting the small mud huts I'd built along the way with torches until the sun rose once again. I never knew why the world I'd woken up in was filled with skeletons and zombies, but it didn't really matter. I bashed their heads in with stone swords nonetheless. There were more questions to be had than answers, and I knew I would never know the half of them. I had to survive. Weeks later, exhausted, clothes ripped and torn, blood from numerous cuts on my legs trailing into my socks, I finally found mountains. Majestic. I climbed them each, looking for the ideal spot to build a home, far away from the oppressive trees and monster-filled shadows of the forest. I avoided the caves beneath those mountains, fearful of skeletons and massive spiders. I knew I would have to venture inside them eventually, but not then. I finally found a flat-topped peak that overlooked the forest to the east and ocean to the west. From its heights, I would be able to see the whole land and defend my homestead from intruders. It was good. That was a few months ago. I've since become used to this way of life in this strange land. The name of Steve fits me like a glove, and I am the master of my modest stone home. I've raised cattle, planted wheat, and baked bread. I've explored those mysterious caves and returned the victor, bringing home coal for fires, iron for tools and armor, precious gold and even a priceless diamond. I am king of all I see, master of this forsaken land. Then yesterday, my house blew up. Not all of it, but a good chunk of the western corner. You see, I was up on the roof, placing some wooden shingles that had blown loose in a rainstorm, when a creeper appeared from nowhere. I tried to pull back out of sight, but he spotted me and exploded in a fit of suicidal rage. Now, I might not have mentioned creepers before, but not because they don't bear describing. I call them creepers, because that's what they do. I first discovered them while exploring my first cave, and let me tell you, damn. Those things are scary as all hell. On that first instance, I'd run out of torches, and was blindly trying to feel my way forward, stone sword at the ready, when a movement caught my eye. I backed away, stumbling into the light of my torches, my head filled with thoughts of spiders and zombies, but instead, something else emerged, creeping along the stone with 4 stubby legs attached to a long torso. Its face stared at me with a strange sadness, mouth gaping in a profound grimace, arm stumps wiggling uselessly at its shoulders. I stared, horrified by this hideous beast, lulled into apathy with misplaced pity. But when the creeper neared, I caught a whiff of gunpowder, and the cave filled with an ominous hissing. I came to my senses and tried to flee as the hissing reached a crescendo. The creeper writhed and pulsed, its mouth opening in agony only a split second before it exploded in a roar of fire and flying rock. I threw myself down, covering my head with my arms as flames billowed over me. I almost died that day, and learned to fear the creeper above all others. And so, my house in smoking splinters after the latest creeper attack. I knew I had to repair it quickly before night fell and I became easy meat for monsters. I stowed all my valuables in a chest and armed myself with 7 stone axes and iron armor, prepared to gather as much wood as possible before nightfall. I headed down to the edges of the forest and spent all day felling trees, breaking their wood into rough chunks I could carry back. But somehow during the hours spent sweating and breaking axes, I got lost. As the sun turned orange and dipped toward the horizon, I knew I had to get to shelter, fast. These lands bred monsters, and the sun's rapid progress worried me. With nothing but my axes and the wooden boards I'd hewn, I dug a hole in the ground and prepared to wait out the night. But before I finished plugging up the entrance, I was spotted. Spiders. I put the last board in place and listened with dread in the dark as a dozen clacking mandibles drooled at the thought of my sweet blood just overhead. Their filthy mouths squealed and their clawed legs thumped all around as they did a frenzied, pre-meal dance, waiting for me to emerge. I slept uneasily in the dirt, listening to the terrible sounds above. When the morning came, they were still there. I cleared my bleary eyes and fashioned a crude sword from some stone beneath my feet and wood from my pockets, vowing to at least go down with a fight. With a deep breath, I broke through the wooden barrier and leapt to the offense. "My name is Steve," I screamed in defiance, but there were too many. I ducked and dodged, keeping my lightly armored limbs from the 6 spiders' poisoned fangs as I hacked at their hairy bodies. But they pressed in. I tried to retreat, but my foot fell into the very hole I'd hidden in overnight, and I tripped. I landed heavily in the dirt, gazing at the patch of sunlight above through my pain. Somehow, I knew this was a sky I would die under. I thought about the cows in their pens, the sheep grazing peacefully by the golden wheat ready to be harvested. They would all wait forever for me to return. My house would remain on my mountain top, an empty monument to Steve, the only human to ever walk this world. Was it all for nothing? No. I'd survived, if only for a while. I blinked and brought myself back to the present. I smiled grimly as the spiders tried to swarm into the small hole, but their disgusting bodies were too big. I hacked at them from below, killing several. Perhaps there was a chance. My hope was short-lived, and my stomach dropped as a creeper suddenly appeared, blindly following the spiders, hoping for an easy victim. How could my luck have been so horrible? I knew what was going to happen next. Adrenaline flashed through my veins and I threw myself back as the creeper toppled into the hole, coming to land in a heap not 2 feet from me. I was trapped. The cold dirt and unyielding stone pressed against my back as I turned away, squeezing my eyes shut as the dreaded sound filled the small hole. One day, I woke up in the middle of a forest, covered in snow. The end. This next story is from Ep1. He said, when my brother had a Minecraft account, and I don't, I'd always use his account. I was gonna make a sheep farm on a single-player world. As time passed by, I bred more and more sheeps. One day, it was so crowded. All the sheep were pushing each other. So was gonna breed another sheep, and when the baby sheep came out, it kept getting pushed against the wall. At one point, the baby sheep disappeared. I looked around for the baby sheep and he appeared to be outside the pen. It wasn't a visual bug, he actually got pushed outside the pen by the other sheep. I showed my brother and we both laughed, then we made a bigger farm. Okay, I can feel the diamonds are really close here. Let me try digging in a different direction. I just stumbled upon a cave and a lava river. I definitely very close. Let me try digging in a different direction. If I see redstone ore, gold ores or lapis ores, I can be very close to some diamond ores. Maybe by building a fence perimeter wall of blocks I can prevent monsters from killing me. Okay, this is my first attack of a zombie. Kill this one first, then block the passageway from where he came. That will be my strategy. Okay, this can be tricky. I have to stay alive without getting killed by these monsters or else this world is done.
Kiss on the hand, maybe white continental, the diamonds are a girl's best friend.
Oh my. All that hard work and I found 6 diamonds. This is so awesome. So join me again for another adventure next time on my hardcore challenge in Minecraft. My name is Alex. Sweet dreams.